On a more serious note, you know that Melissa and I have been looking into where our food comes from and thinking very seriously about nutrition, health, and what kind of ingredients we want to personally eat for the children and people in our family. And for all the viewers out there, we want you to at least know what you're eating and so you can make a decision on your own as to what's appropriate. So we took a trip. Well, do you want to tell them?
Yeah, we decided to go see what a CAFO lot actually looks like, because I think that the issue here is that when you go to the grocery store, there's a veil between you and where your food actually comes from. So we wanted to go and see where that actually is. And this is what happened. We're just outside a town that has 3 gigantic CAFO feedlots. And they're just dead cows just on the side of the road. And this one's obviously been there long enough for dust to blow up all around it. No one's coming out here and moving this cow. No one's getting it. I think if America knew where its food really came from and how its food was treated, it might think a little differently about what it was eating. Giant pile of cow dung covered in tires. Oh yeah, we can smell it too. This road right here.
It's like England, money is measured in pounds.
That's the Cargill plant. And right there, underneath those tires, are literal mountains of cow dung. Mountains of them. Wow. That is insane. Sorry, guys. Sorry, cows. God, that smell is horrible. Look at how many. It just goes on and on. There's no visibility.
Wow, there's zero. Shit, we're driving into a windstorm.
Better? Cows. Just miles and miles of cows. Have you ever seen this many cows in one place before? Anyone? This just goes on and on and on. This is where everybody's food comes from in America, right here. Miles and miles of cows. Some of these cows are standing on giant piles of dung. Because that's how much there is. This is just mile upon mile upon mile. And it just goes back as far as we can see. It smells so horrible out here. I can't even describe how much it smells, and it's not even warm. Can you imagine what it's like in the summertime out here? As far as the eye can see, it's just cows. Just cows for as far as the eye can see.
There's a cow piled on top of other cows. It's just...
So many cows. God, it makes me so mad. It is just so disgusting. Do you want me to go back down that road? Think we can drive? Can we drive down here?
Yeah, it's a road.
This is where the food comes from. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of cows shoved into little tiny pens, like freaking worse than like cattle actually. And look, they're saying this is a biosecure facility and we're not allowed to film it. You know why? Because they don't want people to see. They don't want people to see how disgusting and horrible the food is treated. Look at this. Hundreds of cows shoved into a little box. It's like concentration camps for people's food. It smells disgusting out here. This is gross. Oh, freaking biosecure facility. No pictures may be taken. Well, I'm on a public road and I'm taking pictures. You know why? They don't want you to see how disgusting this is. This is disgusting. I'm outraged.
Turn around and get the hell out of here.
I don't think people have any idea where their food comes from in this country. I don't think they have the slightest clue. Your food comes from concentration camps. Alright? It's drugged up with antibiotics and all kinds of chemicals and then shoved into little metal pins. And then you eat it.
I don't know, you want to do sticks?
The issue here isn't about us trying to tell people to be vegetarians. We're not entirely full vegetarians. I mean, we mostly don't eat meat, but the issue here is about telling people to at least look into how their food is being raised. What it is that you're purchasing when you put your money on the counter. Are you supporting what is essentially an ethical and environmental nightmare every time you buy food?
Well, some people aren't concerned about the ethics of it, but there's also the issue of transparency. We know we don't have GMO labeling, so it's very difficult without a lot of research to know if you're eating genetically modified corn or soy, or what's in your box foods, or where your vegetables come from. But it's also true of meat, because as you can see, they don't want you to see how your food is raised. Forget whether or not you personally choose to have a hamburger or eat a chicken or whatever. Why is it not okay to go look and see where that comes from? In many states in this country, the lobbyists for the food industries and the mega corn producers and the mega livestock producers, they have implemented ag-gag laws, a term that is supposed to restrict your right to film any kind of agricultural institution, acting as though filming it is some kind of act of terrorism, when it should be everyone's right to know what kind of conditions the food's raised.
I mean, what you're eating, that's a very basic component of your daily life. That nutrition, what you put inside your body, determines all kinds of things about your health and quality of life. So knowing where that food comes from, that should be basic. That should be a basic fundamental right. And we have laws now in states they're passing to try and get people to not be able to film undercover. Why would they even have to film undercover to begin with? Well, because they don't want you to know how your food is being produced. We were on a public road, and we live in Texas, and there are no ag-gag laws here, surprisingly. So we filmed because that's our right. That's our First Amendment right.
But at the same time, you see on the sign how they're trying to intimidate people out of filming and give the appearance that it's not okay to film, using that term, this is a biosecure facility. It's a place where people's food is raised. Everyone has a stake in that, no pun intended. Whether or not you choose to eat meat, we need to know what's going on. And furthermore, these CAFOs have major environmental pollution and runoff. They affect surrounding areas. We discussed some of those issues. It's such a big topic that we'll probably have to do other reports in the future.
They've done whole documentaries on it for sure, but this is something that affects every single person who's eating these foods. And there's something that doesn't translate in that report that we just you can't get it across unless you see it for yourself. But that was horrifying. And the longer we filmed it, and I don't know if it came across, but I hope that it did, the more upset we got just being there and seeing it. It was horrible. Those cows were they were packed in there. They were just stuffed in there, and they were making horrible noises. There was one area where a cow was just piled on top of another cow, not because they were doing anything, but because there was nowhere for that cow to go. That's how many were shoved in such a small space. These animals are suffering. That is not an enjoyable experience for them. And then you eat the suffering that is produced by this. This is not natural. There's nothing normal about this industrial farming that they're doing.
Well, and like other issues, not just food related, but just in general with society, the market has been so consolidated and condensed and is tied to the abuse of power in Washington, the related lobbyists, that all the ranchers and farmers who own these cows, there's hundreds of thousands of them in the country, are pressured to use antibiotics, to send their cows to a CAFO to live in these conditions, because it's so expensive to raise them pasture raised where they eat grass. And there's so much pressure for them to be overweight. But partially because of drought conditions and also feed conditions, they've actually shrunken the herd size since the 70s and 80s. There's less cows than there used to be, but they're drastically bigger. They're pumped up and they're big and they're mean, and it's a big cut of meat that they produce there. But they do it by taking shortcuts with GMO corn and other feed additives, and through the use of antibiotics that help them with weight gain and other things that promote weight gain. Is that the kind of food you want to eat? Are you okay with those ethical issues? Well, that's a large conversation. We're not here to tell you how to think, but we better damn sure at least know where our food comes from and be able to transparently look behind the veil of how it's produced and what those conditions are. The fact they intimidate people out of reporting on that should speak volumes alone for itself.
Agreed. I just think people need to at least know what we're talking about here, because people talk about CAFOs, but until you've seen this for yourself and seen where your food comes from, and I can't imagine it. I just can't imagine it if you were a cow, how that would be. I mean, we have to start getting more connected to ourselves and connected to reality. We're in this matrix where they've got TV in front of your face all the time. They've hidden your food behind these little idyllic pictures of barns on the package and words like all natural. But where's your food actually come from? How is your food treated? What's done to it before it gets to your table? These are important questions, and we should be allowed to ask them.